Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekon, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, let me start by congratulating the National Assembly as well as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for successfully presenting to the National Assembly the 2025 Appropriation Bill, which he christened as Budget of Restoration, and with emphasis on poverty reduction, security, and security. Mr. President, I want to strongly believe that this is deliberate because the President chose this name having considered a lot of indices on the state of affairs of the country before coming up with the third budget of restoration. Mr. President, one major area of concern which I listened to all my colleagues who have contributed and who have said one or two things is in two major areas. One, on the issue of the exchange rates. And Senator Adam Oshiomhole raised it and was critical about it, that we should do everything to sustain that the exchange rate stand at 1,500 to $1 because of the purchasing power parity. And I must say this, I will further suggest that we should look for a way by which this exchange rate will go down further, because all indications to ensure that this exchange rate goes below 1,500, this current administration is working seriously hard to ensure that comes to pass. First and foremost, the refinery coming back on board. We have the Port Harcourt refinery now working. Dangote just this morning, how true it is that petroleum pump price has been further go down. And also the Kaduna refinery, they are working around the clock to also put it to work. And if all this, we have it in place, definitely the exchange rate will further go down. Because this rate that is budget, that comes with this budget, is not the actual rate. This is the rate in which the government wants to work with. While the actual rate there, which is operated by the Bureau de Change operators, is quite different from this. So there is still an exchange rate difference of about 250. But what the government will work with in the budget is this $1,500. So what we should do through proper monitoring, effective oversighting, is to work closely with the Central Bank of Nigeria and all major stakeholders and players in the economic sector to see how we can further work with them to bring down this rate to as low as 1,400. If you look at the medium-term expenditure framework that was passed, what was contained in it was $1,400. That shows the expectation of the current administration is that dollars should operate at 1,400 to $1. Naira should operate. So what we should do is to work closely with these relevant stakeholders in the economic sector to see how we can further bring down the exchange rate that is being attached to this current document. Mr. President, having said that, I also want to mention that I'm concerned, and my concern is that the cost of running the government and the cost of providing the dividend of democracy in terms of development to the country, the disparity is too high. In this current budget, what we have is about 80% or 75% of the 49.7 is cost of servicing, recurrent expenditure, debt servicing, and everything. While the cost of providing development project and everything, as we speak, is about 9.8 trillion naira. So when you look at that disparity, that shows a lot still need to be done in this regard to ensure that we bring down cost of running the government to at least the barest minimum, so that the cost of providing infrastructure and other developmental things can go up to as much as least 30 to 40%. And I know this current president, while serving as governor of Lagos State, it changed the trajectory, where we have 40% cost of running government and 55% cost of providing infrastructure and developmental projects across the state. So this is one area that we should also look at and work closely through proper oversight on the part of our committee chairman to ensure that areas which we can recommend to the government, which we can tag as costs that we can reduce to increase the cost of our capital expenditure, we should also do that and work closely with our agencies and ministry and parastatals, which will be oversighting. Mr. President, having said that, I also want to congratulate the government of the day. At least the growth rate as projected by IMF and what we currently have, there is a disparity of about 2.5% difference, which is a welcome development. That shows that the reform agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is working, and we can only look or pray for the best in the coming year. Again, another area of concern, which my colleague have also expressed, is the area of inflation. And as we have said, this current document before us has an inflation rate of about 15%. But actually, from the Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate stood at about 36.4%. That's a differential of almost 18%. So, and I know all the government has put in place this year in trying to curb the inflationary rates to be able to achieve the 15%, we definitely work, which is looking for alternative means of addressing the issue of subsidy through the conversion of our cars to the CNG is there, and also trying to bring our refinery and all others to work so that putting pressure on the dollars can be reduced. All of this will assist to curb inflation, and we should, the projection of 15% that have been proposed by this current administration in the 2024-5 appropriation bill can be achieved. But having said that, that still is due to some other factor, which is one, continuous monitoring, continuous engagement of the executive, and also we pray that we don't see any unforeseen situation that can cause further increase in the inflationary rate as projected by this by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, we should also congratulate the administration. Long before now, I can vividly recollect that the production, oil production, was about less than 1.2 million barrels per day or so. So now we are projecting about 2.06 billion. We are already at about 1.8 million barrels per day. That shows that a lot of things is working. The security index is improving. And with all of this, I strongly believe that though it's an ambitious budget, but it's still achievable. And that was alluded to yesterday by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the budget is very ambitious, but as ambitious as it is, we can still compare it with budget of some other countries who are not as big as Nigeria in terms of natural resources or availability of resources. But we want to thank God that at least we are moving. We can only believe that by the end of the administration, by 2031, at the end of administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, having served 8 years, maybe Nigerian budget will be around 200 trillion or 300 trillion naira. So we are hoping that as we are moving progressively, we will continue to move in that direction so that at least Nigeria can take its pride of place among the community of states in the world. So once again, Mr. President, I have listened to all my colleagues, I've listened to all the observation, and during the consideration in terms of working with the committees and the final output of the budget, a lot of these observations that have been raised will be considered and will be looked into nitty-gritty of it based on their merit, and that will form part of our report and before the eventual passage of the budget. Once again, Mr. President, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I so submit. Thank you.